But Andrew, last night you sent me a photo of the Dalgety Flyer, and what I find that is a piece of history which has been lost by the look of it, and it is something that I think should be in the Queensland Aero Museum up at Caloundra. So the purpose of this morning's YouTube Tuesday here is to launch a campaign to find the Dalgety Flyer.
COVID-19 today, we're actually going to take you back down memory lane to 1988, and of course one of the biggest things that ever hit Australia was Expo 88, and for those of us who were around at the time, it was a fabulous place to be, and it was really the changing of Brisbane in many ways. It became a global city back in 1988, and our guest this morning, Peter Racy, is looking for a bit of a hand. He needs help finding a particular piece of memorabilia. Peter Racy, good morning. So explain to our listeners what the Dalgety Flyer is, and what does it look like, what does it do?
Yep, well, I've put up on David Olive's Facebook page actually, and I'm happy to put up on yours, the photographs of it from World Expo 88. It's a light plane. I'm assuming that it was used in mustering primarily, or maybe it was just used in you know, sort of paddock supervision of how tilling has gone and sowing has gone, but it was, as I understand it, from the Deputy Director of the Pavilion, and the comments were very interesting. And one, however, from Tom Wilson, really belled the cat. And Andrew Schultz eventually pinged me and said, you should have a look at this. Yeah, about 1985, he's done gliding. He's had an accident. He hates heights. He's overcome his fear, and this is part and parcel of the treatment of his fear, believe it or not. And so he gets it in his mind that he's going to fly from London to Sydney or around the world. He's sort of got two visions in mind. But then the narrative goes on, and Brian was incredibly lucky. I mean, he got offered a sponsorship, a full sponsorship from one person up front. And it only takes him a few weeks after that. And it just goes to show that, you know, the gung-ho attitude of those 1980s stock market days was still well and truly alive. And this is just after the crash. Was still alive, well and truly, because Dalgety turn up and offer him sole sponsorship. And Dalgety at those days was a very staid and trusted company, but they came on board and offered him a full sponsorship. The end of the story is slightly sad, and I might just, Jason, if you're interested, I'll begin with the end. Because that's the sad bit. So Brian has this epic journey, ditches in the ocean, flips upside down, gets stuck in mud, has all sorts of trouble with customs, and so in a way mirrored all those original problems that the aviators back in 1919 had. And he based the journey on the Great Race back in 1919. And so the historical groundings of the flight are very interesting. And the first part of the book deals with those facts. And he's a very good writer, and it's very easy to read. Although he thought he would get into Sydney, finale of his journey, and what he found was that because that particular bicentenary event in Sydney was chock-a-block with tall ships, with flights and F-111s and fireworks and all sorts of different things, he couldn't get in. It was closed airspace, and he hadn't realised because.
And at this stage, Peter, had he travelled all the way from the UK?
He was in Australia. He obviously did land in New Farm Park, But he was underwhelmed by the support that the Brisbane official community gave him, and I also the plane did end up in Sydney, I think on the 29th. Yep, on the 29th of January. And there was a sponsorship company that Dalgety obviously controlled, and they took possession of the plane. They obviously arranged it to go into Expo 88, and then from Expo 88, they then donated it to the Powerhouse Museum, and